Welcome into Inside LAFC Podcast, a very special look back at the midweek. We have so much on the plate here, and it isn't a one-man job. I know I use that line every week, but it's a two-person job. Stephen Beitashour here to help fill those gaps. How you doing, Beta?
I'm good, Max. Good to see you as always, and it was a busy week, so I'm glad you get a rest and do this for a little bit in the house. A couple days not traveling. Man, you're all over the place.
It's the good news. It's short trips.
Yeah.
I am like West Coast Willie for MLS. I'll go Salt Lake, LA, Seattle, Portland, maybe some Texas.
Yeah. Every time I talk to you, you're like, I'm heading out. I'm heading in. I'm heading out.
That's right. This is what I asked for, Beta. What you'll see it once when you get full bore into this media thing, or if you get full bore into the coaching thing, you'll be missing your playing days.
Yeah, I already miss them.
You know who doesn't? You know who doesn't have to miss his playing days is Kai Kamara. He is going to be our what a segue, by the way. He is going to be our very special guest here on Inside LAFC Podcast. We'll talk about chasing Landon Donovan. We'll talk about continuing to play at the age of 39, and we'll also talk about his connection to his homeland, Sierra Leone, and what he's doing there. He's got a lot on his plate, and he's always looking for more. And I know you had a chance to wrangle with Kei Kamara many times in your MLS career. What can you say about Kai, the player, the competitor?
Yeah, well, the ageless wonder, 39. He's jumping around like he's 29. Just looking good. Obviously, I know Kai from the many battles that we had against each other. He's a tall, big, strong striker. You know, as an outside back, you usually don't have to deal with him too much. But every once in a while, he drifts over, and I always yell at him, like, get out of here. You know, don't come out to the outside back space. Stay with the center backs. But he's a good person. He's one of those guys where he gives it everything on the field. But then afterwards, when you have a chance to chat with him, you really enjoy your conversations, a good guy. And it's good to see, you know, he's still playing and doing well. He got the start last game, so I'm happy for him.
We'll get to that. We'll talk about Olivier Giroud, the big news breaking this week, and we'll obviously talk about LAFC and a huge victory all the way out in St. Louis, getting that first MLS victory. I did want to mention this, Beta, and speaking to Kai, to me it seems like players get to play a little longer. What do you think about that? Because 20 years ago, playing to 35, 36 was crazy. And now guys are 37, 38, 39. Soon they're going to be 45 and still going strong. What is it? How can guys go a little bit longer than they used to?
Yeah, you know, I think it's a combination of things. You know, obviously position. As a striker, I think Kai is very similar to like Zlatan, where you can play close to your 40s, maybe into your 40s, just because you know, it's not a high demanding position where you're, you know, as like a winger or an outside back, you're just flying up the flanks, and it takes a toll on the body. Where a striker, maybe he's not going to start every game, but when it comes down to crunch time, last 15, 20 minutes of a game, and you need a goal, put on a tall, big striker, someone that has scored, you know, probably over 100 goals with his head. It's a nightmare to defend as the opposition. So that on top of he takes care of his body. You can tell, you know, he eats well, he trains hard. He looks after himself, and so it's allowing himself to continue to play. And it still doesn't look like he's lost any of those hops that he's had. It's pretty incredible to see.
You picked the wrong position, Beta. You picked fullback where you put too much tread on your tires.
I know. Yeah, if I were what is Kai? 6'3", 6'4"? Maybe if I were 6'3", 6'4". But yeah. It's all right. You know, I'm not 37. I went to 37. That's not bad.
That's brilliant, man. I'm telling you, 37 was like they would scoff at that.
Yeah.
They would scoff at the idea of going to 37. You can do it. So congratulations again.
I always thought if I got to 35, I'm like, man, that was long. And then I got there. I'm like, I might be able to go another year or two. So I was happy. I was definitely happy, but the time was up. I was ready to go. So yeah.
Well, I'll be 35 pretty soon, and I'll talk to you about.
Yeah. Let me know how you feel once you get to 35, 36. You know, you're still young.
Some weird audio effect here. Something we've talked about LAFC, learning to win on the road. And sometimes that felt very far away for this team. They got that win at Las Vegas, and I don't want to compare that to what happened to St. Louis, but you get a taste of what it's like and getting on an airplane, coming back and feeling good. And good form as this team starts to put things together came into view as LAFC were able to go to St. Louis. By the way, 3 games against St. Louis in their history, and LAFC has never conceded a goal home or away to St. Louis City. So this was a really, and I want to talk to you about the secrets. And I don't, and to me, it sounds very elementary, and LAFC's defense has to kind of get there, and they did, and we'll talk about them a little bit, but it kept them within this game. So you're not chasing, and I think that makes a huge difference. And LAFC were able to strike when they did, and one hand feeds the other in many ways. This was a big one because now they come into this break. They don't play on the weekend, feel good about themselves, and lo and behold, you look at the standings, they're tied in second place.
Yeah, this was a perfect road game. The game plan was perfect. We talked about it a few weeks ago about just getting the monkey off the back, get that road victory, and now the pressure's off. You can kind of play relaxed, play freely, but you see when Bouanga has that first goal, and at that moment, you can tell LAFC's like, let's shut it down. Okay, we don't need to go chasing. We don't need to go get the ball out of bounds and throw it in quickly. Goal kicks, Lloris took his time. We didn't need to play out of the back and take unnecessary risks. Players would get fouled and stay on the ground a little longer than usual. Everything to a T. Like that was in a textbook. When you're on the road, you have that 1-0 lead. This is how you see the game out. And it was really refreshing to see because it's something as a player, former player, that I'd always remind the guys when we go on the road, it's different. It's different than when you're at home in front of your home crowd. On the road, there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on, right? You're rolling around a couple times. When St. Louis's coach is trying to hand Campos the ball, he doesn't grab it from him and he gets the other ball just to take an extra 5-10 seconds here and there. It adds up. It frustrates the opponent, and I loved every bit of it.
And doing that in these last 2 games, home and away, against Vancouver and against St. Louis, if they fall behind to either of those teams, they're in big trouble. And it's St. Louis looks like, what do we do? And LAFC's like, all right, bring it.
Yep.
Let's see, bring that press, see if you can work it. And it didn't really work out. What does a win like that do for a club? Winning on the road's hard. It's harder in MLS, I would say, in any other soccer league because of these trips that you have to take. But when you get one like that, what does that do for the individual? What does that do for the team?
It just gives you that extra confidence because when you go a couple games without getting that win on the road, people start talking it. You and I start talking about it. Media starts talking about it, right? Like, when are they going to get that first win? And now the monkey's off the back. We can relax, take a sigh of relief. Like, okay, we can play our football again. But there are moments to learn from this game as well, though. I don't want to go away from that because Lloris had a huge penalty save, right? And you mentioned it. If you go down against St. Louis, it's going to be very difficult, right? They like to counter. They like to defend first. They don't like to play with the ball. They like to make you make mistakes. So that was a huge play. And then the Markanich goal that got called back right before halftime. Huge momentum change right there. Okay, if you go into half right before half, now down 1-0, what a completely different halftime talk from Steve. What the mindset is now completely different. So it's little details again. So they shouldn't think that this was the easiest game and you can do this every time. Still learning points, but when Bouanga had that first goal, I think everything after that was just perfect.
What did you think about the decisions? I thought they were all right. There was an arm on Campos. If the offensive player on Markanich, even if it's like an accident, if it hits your arm and then goes in the goal, they're gonna take it off the board.
Yeah.
And it was harsh on the swing for the red card.
Yeah.
But if you're a referee and you put them in those situations, they look at it and goes, you're not supposed to do that. That's a yellow card. Am I right? Do you agree?
I think that one was a little harsh. I agree with the handball, Markanich. Look, it hit his hand. If it doesn't, it could go anywhere else. And I feel bad for Markanich. He was here with the Rapids while I was playing. Good kid.
Good little player, man.
And you think of it for him, he could have had a heck of a day scoring a goal and, being man of the match to the goal gets called back. You get sent off, and now you just give up all hope for your team to win. And I feel bad for him because he's a good player, but on the day, it just wasn't the best day for him. Even the first goal against Buanga, he gets caught stepping when he shouldn't. But going back to your question, I don't like that second yellow. I just he gets a little push from Palencia, so he's kind of falling forward to get the foul call, as all of us do, as anybody, whatever position you are. He doesn't look back and say, "Oh, there's Sergio's face. I'm going to smack him." No. And so for a referee to give a second yellow, when I actually think with the push on Palencia, he could have just called a foul, maybe had a talk with Markanic and be like, "Hey, you got to be careful. You can't be flailing your arms. You got him in the face." I just don't like that second yellow personally. I think a lot of people agree as well when you watch it, but you know what? It is what it is. You got to deal with sometimes it's good calls, bad calls, and LAFC dealt with it well, and St. Louis couldn't handle it.
I like LAFC doing some of the quote unquote dark arts there, because once it happened, they pointed out the ref, hey. And hey, if you can get your team an edge,
of course,
you do it.
It's part of the game.
We talked about this a little bit, but you mentioned the Lloris save, and I want to go back to that and how happy the team was when he made that save. It was a huge moment. João Klaus is a really good penalty taker. LAFC, I think it was a long time. I was seeing on the broadcast, I believe, or maybe it was on social media after, a long time since he's made a penalty save. So the pressure was on.
I think it's 2001 they mentioned.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Time.
Just the defense in this situation, putting the team into position to succeed. We talked about they're not having to chase this game. And I loved what you said about halftime. It puts Steve in a great position and goes, all right, our game plan is still set. They're going to get tired, and it all changes because of a penalty save. Just for Hugo Lloris, look, if you go on social media, it was difficult. People had some questions. He was beaten by some balls probably that normally he wouldn't, and then he's going to get his comfort level in MLS. It feels like he's getting there.
Yeah. So I said 2001. 2021 was his last penalty save. I'm sure you.
That's what I thought I heard, by the way, Beta.
Yeah. And so that is a long time, though. Still, 3 and some years change. For a keeper, you like to have those moments where you just kind of get your team out of it. It was a silly corner to give up in the first place with Murillo, and LAFC hasn't been great on set pieces, conceding a lot of goals, and then you give up a penalty kick with the handball on Campos. Now you're looking at your keeper. Can you get us out of this? And sure enough, it's a great save. You mentioned it. Klaus is a very good penalty taker. He does the little stutter. He can go either way. And Lloris just held his ground, right? And you see that explosiveness. Those are the hardest ones for keepers, to go down and low. They always tell us as kick takers, either go down or low, or you got to put it high. Anything in the middle is easy pickings for them. But those down and low ones are tough to be explosive still. And so it's a big save, right? Keeping your team in it. And that's huge. As a defender, now you want to repay your goalkeeper. All right, you know what? Now I'm gonna make a couple extra blocks for you. I'm gonna get your back. So that was a big time moment from Lloris.
Wait, does that really work that way? The players get fired up. You see a penalty save, you're like,
fired.
I'm gonna put my body on the line for you.
Like, you know what? I owe you one. You got me there. I'm gonna get you back. It's just those are some of the unwritten rules.
I believe it, man. I believe it. You see the reaction after a penalty. It's almost bigger than when a team scores a goal.
Yeah, and I love all keepers do this when people go celebrating with the keeper, and the keeper is just buzzing inside. He's like, let's focus on the next play. He wants to celebrate like he scored a goal, right? He wants to take his shirt off and all this, but he's like, no, guys, corner, let's get ready. I love that part. It's so funny.
It's got to feel really good. It's got to feel really good to stone a player like that in such a big spot for LAFC, because, look, if they tuck that away, in all likelihood, this game looks very, very different.
Yeah, 100%.
Aaron Long, and I just want to talk about the center back pairings. Aaron Long and Jesus Murillo. We saw Chanot and Murillo. We've seen Aaron Long come back from this injury. To me, he was one of the 2 or 3 better players. A lot of times just moving into the midfield, just being really active, looked like a very young player with an experienced head. And now you have these back-to-back clean sheets. I know set pieces is an issue, and that Marcanic goal did come off a corner kick, so that's just a little bit more I think they have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, positionally was good. Not a lot of big chances for St. Louis. Not a lot of big chances for Vancouver in the prior game.
No, for sure. I think Aaron Long is one of those players that I admired from far. The way he plays, the intensity that he closes down, and people don't give him credit for his speed, but when he opens it up, he's a quick player. And so there were moments in the game where actually, as you mentioned, I was impressed. I was like, man, he went and closed tight. He was aggressive. He wasn't passive, letting the attacker do whatever they want. You love players like that when they're on your team. It just gives you a little more confidence to go join them. And LAFC, as a player, we would always talk about this is defending in a pack, right, in a group, create a web around that midfielder, forward, whatever it is. And there were moments when you see Aaron Long going, and another player goes, and another midfielder goes, and they just win it. Their repress was really good, and Aaron Long was a catalyst for many of those moments. So, heck of a game, and you mentioned the game before as well. 2 clean sheets in a row. They got to keep that going.
Developing depth. Something I think we can talk about here because that's a big issue for this club. And it's not me saying that. That's Stephen Beitashour. I'm sorry. That's Steve Cherundolo saying that. I already put you in the head honcho seat. It's Steve Cherundolo saying that because we still have to fill. You can see they don't use a lot of subs, but I think they'll use 3 here. And they're getting more comfortable with more players. Shout out to Eric Duenas, who looks like he's getting a closer move in there. But I talked about the center backs where you can throw 3 at there. Hollingshead is out. Campos has had a great run here, so you feel like you have 3 good fullbacks. The midfield, it's pretty straightforward, but with Bogusz being able to go back and forth, you have some flexibility, which allows Kai Kamara, and we'll talk about what's coming in the summer here in a moment. But that feels like it's certainly moving in the right direction, and there are good options at a lot of places of the park.
I agree. I think once these summer signings come in, you're going to get more depth. But if you compare right now to maybe early in the year, and you look at that bench and you're just like, ooh, that's pretty thin. That's pretty thin. But, you mentioned a shout out to Duenas to come on. You would like to see maybe a player with a little bit more experience. I think it was for Atuesta, if I'm not mistaken, he was coming on for. I don't know if he was cramping or what, but, on the road, 1-0 lead. That's a big moment for a young player, but I thought he handled it well. But everywhere else, there's cover between the outside backs. You got good 3 midfield. Bogusz played in the midfield today, and he looked really good. Kai Kamara on any given day can go up top, and he's going to get some chances and score some goals. So it's a good, solid team, and with these summer signings coming, it's only going to get better.
And talk to Kai Kamara. He knows it's not just about scoring goals. It's coming back, defending on set pieces, all of that's going to give him an edge to get more playing time. And again, we know that it's going to be more competitive in those areas. And I would imagine, I don't think this team is done by any means in the summer. I don't think they're going to get anyone like Olivier Giroud, who we can talk a little bit. We're looking forward to speaking to John Thorrington soon about this and how it all happened, because it is fascinating. The traffic on social media was amazing. Everyone picked it up, domestic and abroad. Everyone's locked into this move because it's a really big move. And before we talk about the significance of it, a guy like Kai Kamara would think, all right, that might take away some minutes. And Bogusz probably says, maybe I'm not going to play that 9 role, where I think he's actually given better minutes to LAFC than in the midfield. But he is a midfielder by trait. But everyone's going to find ways to break it in. But here comes this guy, 37, still. I tend to think, you're playing and scoring goals for Milan. They finished second in the Serie A. If you're doing that, you could probably play for almost any. He could probably play for almost any team in the Premier League, any top club, because he is a goal-scoring savant, right? Exactly. He's just. It's about positioning. It's about communication. All those things that he possesses. Where we've seen these developments with Bogusz and Bouanga playing well out wide, and Kike. It feels kind of just ideal about finding someone who can plop in there. And granted, we're going to have him for less than half a season, and then again for all of 2025. but the table should be set for him to score. You've seen this guy in action. How big of a move is this?
Yeah, it's a huge move. You saw what he did with AC Milan, just a fantastic player. You've seen what he's done with the French national team. He's meeting up with his goalkeeper as well with the French national team, which I'm sure played a little part in getting him over here. And
keep him coming.
Yeah, keep them coming, right? Keep them coming. Anytime you can get marquee players like this who have had incredible careers and are still doing it. I know people always like to talk about age. As a former player, I dealt with that. Anytime you get to 30, every year they're going to talk about your age. And it's part of the nature. Father time never loses. But when does that kick in? Some people, it's 32, 33. Some people, look at Kai. Giroud's the same. Zlatan was the same. Those guys are going to go well into their 30s, early 40s. So I think it's a good signing. He will have a little bit of adjustment period. I don't think fans should expect him to come in and just start scoring goals like crazy because the style of play in Italy is different than MLS. It is a little bit more up and down, where in Italy they like to sit in those low blocks, right? And then they slowly transition. The opposition sits in their low block. So it's not as fast-paced, but talent is talent. He's going to score some goals. So
I love what you said there, Beta, about being patient, because people aren't going to be patient. You say slot him in, it's Olivier Giroud, score. And look, the guys that came over, you think of Giorgio Chiellini, it took some time. Gareth Bale, it took a little bit more time. Hugo Lloris was a freak. You just slotted him right in there. But some of these guys, and I think that's so important that what we're seeing with the club now resonates, because when he comes to MLS after the Euros, the main group is going to carry him until he's ready to go, because he's going to do the same thing everyone else did. Wait, where are we going? I've been on an airplane for 4 hours. I've never experienced this. I can't breathe. This air is too thin. Whatever it is, it's going to be a process. So I think it's important that the group is playing well, and then when he's ready, you find a way to integrate him.
Yeah, and a lot of things. One of the things that fans don't also recognize is their football calendar year is different than ours in MLS. And so he hasn't had a rest. His season just ended, and now he's going straight away. People are like, just suck it up, just keep going. You need a mental and physical refresh. And so sometimes that week or two to just do nothing is all you need. Some guys need longer, but for me, it was always like that 10 to 14 days. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get back into it. But hopefully he'll be okay to just keep going, and then he'll have a good long break come December, hopefully after he's holding the trophy up.
Euros are July 14th. They end July 14th. That's the final. There's a very good chance France might be in that final, and he's playing. So let's say France get knocked out of the semifinal, which I think is July 9th, July 10th. So a couple week to settle in. Let's think maybe the business end of Leagues Cup will get him to play some significant minutes. That'll be like early August, second week of August.
Yeah. I think that's enough time for him. It'll be just in time for the playoffs. Obviously, LAFC is in a good position in the standings, so it's not coming into a team where you have to help fight for a playoff spot. You're going to be in the playoffs. So as long as he gets in the groove of things and gets familiar with his teammates and a little bit of the style of play and within LAFC and the league, he's going to come in at perfect timing.
Right. And right now, LAFC's in second, feeling really good with the group that they have. No game this weekend. Following Tuesday, round of 16 U.S. Open Cup. LAFC to take on Loudoun United, USL team. They are the reserve, the next pro team for DC United. Big moment for them, but they have to come on the road. We saw LAFC grind through the Las Vegas Lights. That was tough. It was a tough one. Now they reap the benefits, round of 16. Bay, let's go back to your Open Cup days. It's a different tournament because there's only like 8 MLS teams. It's opened up for LAFC, and now you have this home game with a chance to be in the final 8. You can almost touch a trophy. You can kind of see it in the.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
You can't touch it, but you kind of see it.
One game at a time. Okay, that's as a former player, we'd always talk about that. Don't look ahead. one game at a time. You're going off the back of a few road victories, which is good for you, right? You have that confidence, right? We talked about the monkeys off the back. Continue that momentum. Continue that momentum. You're going to rotate a little bit. I don't think as much as before. When we spoke a couple weeks ago, we talked about this busy stretch, right? And there's going to be some rotation to keep the legs fresh. Right now, because of this bye this coming week or no game, now maybe you keep your guys going. So it'll be interesting to see what Steve does.
If they didn't, for some reason, if things didn't go well in Las Vegas, this fixture's not here, then you have 10 days, which is fine. You want to recharge the batteries, but when you're coming off back-to-back wins, you want to keep it going. No, Beta?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go to the desert and sit by a swimming pool for a couple days?
I think it's still early enough in the season that you're not ready to just go sit by the swimming pool. I think guys are still hungry. But it's a balance with teams in my past. With teams that were successful, it was a lot easier for the coaches to rotate because there's less pressure from media and fans to get this result. If you start the regular season off and you're losing, then people start chirping, start talking about, oh, what's wrong, and now you're kind of chasing results. Now you're playing guys into exhaustion, maybe getting injuries. It's just a vicious cycle where I think Steve is in a good spot. Second in the standings. You got a couple road wins under your belt. Guys are feeling good. I'm not saying rotate completely, but you can rotate. You can get some young guys in there with a couple veterans. See how the match is going. Have your veterans on the bench. If they need to come in and save the day, they'll come in and save the day. But I think this is a good spot. I think everyone's feeling good, confident, as they should be, and get ready to get into the next round.
It's a great draw. You get it home against a team you're being a big favorite, and you made the speech there. That's what Coach Cherundolo is going to do. Guys, let's keep it going. We're exactly where we want to be. Let's get that momentum. Let's take care of business here, and they will have a game over the weekend, which brings us to the Black and Gold Rewind. And full transparency here, I've come up with the Black and Gold Rewinds. Sometimes I go, Beta, what you got? You played these games, and he comes back with some humdingers. And this one I think he had in his pocket and he was thinking about. We're going to go back to 2019. LAFC and Atlanta United, July 26th. So in the heat of the summer, LAFC had just come off a loss to the Galaxy prior. And the season before, and I called this game for ESPN, when LAFC was in their year one, they went to Atlanta and lost 5-0. That's not going to be on the Black and Gold Rewind unless you really want it to be, Beta.
I've erased it from my memory.
All right, it's out. This was different. 7 goals. And I imagine because of what I mentioned with Atlanta and the game prior, this was one that you guys really tightened the bolts on.
Definitely was. It was one of those games where you circle on the calendar. They are the current past champions, right? They won it in 18. They won it in their second year as an expansion team, which is what we wanted to replicate, right? We had a good first year as an expansion team in 2018. 2019, we were flying. We were flying on all cylinders, breaking records. So we circled that day. They were the current champions. We wanted to beat them, but also we went to their place the year before, and they absolutely handed it to us. So we were thinking about that. We were ready.
You don't forget.
And the game starts, and I don't forget. And what do they do?
You said you forgot about it, but you didn't forget.
Well, I tried to, but you just never could, right? Those are learning moments. I want to forget it, but I can't. But what do? They come into our place and they score first, up 1-0 in the first 2 minutes of the game. And it took us a little while. Man, we were pushing, but really weren't getting through. But then once the first goal came, I just remember it was a floodgate. It was a floodgate after that.
It was 1-0 for Atlanta. Then Dio scores in the 33rd, Rossi in the 38th, Vela on the penalty, 42nd, Atuesta 45. So it went, you're down a goal to you're up 4-1 at the half. They did add a goal.
Yeah.
4-2 at the half.
Yeah. I just remember it was, I don't even think the fans were able to sit down. It was 4 goals in pretty much 10 minutes. by the time they sat down, it was like, oh, the next goal came in, and it was, you mentioned it, it was someone else every time. It was really cool. It wasn't just Dio's night, or it wasn't just Carlos's night, or not just Diego's night. It was everybody. Even Tuesta's chipping in, who doesn't score too many. Fantastic player, but then he's scoring as well. So it was a fun night. It was a little bit of redemption from the year prior. It was also a little confidence booster. Like, hey, these guys are the champs from last year. We just knocked them out, and so it was good. It was good for the vibes, good for the locker room. The fans loved it. Ton of goals. I think it ended 4-3. So ton of goals.
It was good for the vibes, Beta, and this will make your point. So when they lost to the Galaxy, that was 3-2. That was a game where Vela scored twice and Zlatan scored a hat trick. A famous game in MLS history. You get Atlanta next, obviously disappointed. You win that 4-3, and then LAFC wins their next 4 games, and in those 4 games, they score 12 goals, and they allow 2 goals in those 4 games. So you guys were angry.
Both ends. You're scoring 2 goals a game. You're giving up, what is that, 0.5 goals per game? So that's pretty good on the defensive end and really good on the offensive end. Those are moments during the season that you're like, man, we were flying. And when I talk to Jordan very often, and
both you guys started that game.
Yeah, and we talk about some of the best teams in MLS history, and that was, for me, that was the best regular season team in MLS history. We shattered records, scoring goals for fun, conceded the least amount of goals that season. You just don't get those two together, and so it was a fun season. And you mentioned it. After that Atlanta victory, vibes were in. We were feeling good.
Side note, Joseph Martinez played for Atlanta, and he had the single season scoring record, which he got the year or 2 years prior.
Yeah.
And then Vela would break it in 2019. And he had a goal in that game. You get a producer credit for that, Beta, for suggesting that one for Black and Gold Rewind. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good stuff, my friend. Cracking show. And we're not done yet. Kai Kamara, in search of catching Landon Donovan to be the second highest goal scorer in MLS history, joins us here, and we'll talk about a great many things, including staying fit and ready to go at the age of 39. It's just a number. This is Inside LAFC Podcast. We'll be right back. Inside LAFC Podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance. Driving savings. Welcome back to Inside LAFC Podcast. It's one I've been waiting for. We get to see Kei Kamara all the time, but to get him on the record, Kai, very exciting for our podcast and for me personally.
It's lovely. It's lovely because, I have been stalking you and everything you do. So to finally be in the room with you, I appreciate this.
You were on my other podcast, my personal podcast, the Soccer OG. So now we've covered it here. And for so long, I was, following your career. You're always one of my favorites. And then I hear these rumblings. Actually, I don't hear any rumblings. I go to training, and there I see you trying out. I'm like, okay. I know this makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. A couple of days later, you sign for LAFC. Let me ask you about that, because you are an Angelino, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But getting that phone call or getting that conversation with John and Steve about, hey, we really like you. We think you can provide an impact in many ways, and we want you to wear this shirt. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I think maybe, obviously, as we both follow each other on Instagram, maybe you would have seen on my Instagram that I was in Africa, and all of a sudden you show up to training and I'm there. So,
impressive.
I remember when my agent Kevin Weiners called me. I was over there. I was mad at him actually the day before, because I'm like, hey man, like I give you a layup, like you're supposed to get me teams. What's going on? You haven't, So I got mad at him, and I remember like upsettingly getting off the phone with him. And then when he called again, I'm like, why is he calling me? So he calls me, and then he says, I got something better for you. Would you like to go to LA? And I was like, yeah, you're just joking because I'm mad at you. And he's like, no, it's like LAFC. And I didn't want to believe him. Even when he told me the whole story, I still said to him after like 6 hours or more, I said to him, I said, well, no one's called me yet. I was like, John would have called me, or Steve, would have called me already. So I don't even believe you. Like, this is real. And
Agents.
yeah, and then he says, because it was on Thursday, Friday. It was on a Friday, and he says, they want you on the plane right away. I said, I can make it next Wednesday, so I can wrap up things in Sierra Leone, what I was doing with my Heart Shaped Hands Foundation and all that. And he's like, no, they need you on the plane like tomorrow. So it was so quick. And on Sunday, I jump on the plane, came in here. Again, it was the only team to me that I said I would accept that request from, when they say, we want you to come in, see how fit you are, see how you can fit in with the group. Because again, being from LA, it's so special to me. And I've seen this team over and over and seen the success. And from all the guys, like I say, I follow them on the social media before I even come here. So it was so warm to say, yes, I'll come in, and whatever you need, I'm ready to do it, to be on the squad.
So LAFC was on your radar, no doubt about it.
For many years.
But just to be clear, this was for a tryout. So this was coming to LAFC. No guarantee that they were going to sign you. They wanted it to kick the tires, so to speak.
Definitely. That's the word there. It hurts to hear that word, but it is, a tryout. Like, I had to come on a tryout. Again, when you looking at yourself and saying, oh, this is what I've done. I've scored so many goals, and I do this. So why would I go on tryouts? But when I got the call, and when it was for LAFC, I told Kevin, my agent, I said, this is the only team that will send a request like this, and I take it, because there's, so much respect. And again, being here, being in LA, but just a success, when you have a club like this that has success like that, any player wants, to be part of a program like that. So I was really willing and welcoming to come over.
When you tried out, you're with the guys, you're with the team. There had to have been a moment you've had, this feels comfortable. And then there was a moment that you said, I'm going to make this team. You remember that? Of course you remember it.
I remember the moment where I said, this feels comfortable, but I have to be honest, I was nervous. I was really nervous. I walked into these doors. It just didn't feel real that I was really here, because I know personally I've been knocking on these doors here and saying I would love to come, to LA. All the 1-year deals that I've done, maybe going to Montreal, going to Chicago, and going to other place, I've always tried to reach out and said I want to. So when it happens, I'm still I just flew from Africa. I'm here, and I'm in the facility, and I'm training with the guys, and I'm just like, at my age, at my experience, I'm still like, man, I better do everything right, for them to sign me, because I really want to be here. So I remember now, after a couple of days of training, Steve pulled me to the side. My heart started beating, because this is the moment now. It's, oh man, I'm kind of sweating thinking about it. It's the moment where in my heart, I'm going, oh, is this a yes or is this a no? Is this a yes or is this a no? And he says, we like you, and we'd like to keep you. And I don't know if Steve remembers that, but the smile on my face just went like that.
It has to be disarming, because Kai, you're a big deal. I mean, you're 39, which is unbelievable. I want to talk about that, because you're of a 39-year-old, and I think you're very proud of that, and you certainly make it that way. The way you stay in shape. But you've played for 11 MLS clubs. You have been one of the top scorer in this league. You played in England when players from this country weren't going to play there with any regularity. You're dipping your toe into that. You've played in major competitions like the African Cup of Nations. You've represented Sierra Leone 40 times. This is a resume of a player that walks in and people, take notice, but you are so humbled by it. And just to go through that process of, I feel like I'm trying out, but is that like a mechanism for you that keeps you younger at heart, keeps you younger in your play?
Yeah, 100%. I can say, Max, it fuels me. Having all those achievements is great, but again, I see myself as a young player. I see myself, I'm not the one taking the days off, the pro days, as we call it. I love being around these guys, or even when I was around some of the boys from the second team, 1, 2 of them are like, hey, hi. And I was like expecting, hey, I'm Kai. It's like, oh, okay, I know who you are. Oh, another one going, well, sorry, I didn't really know you. I was like, okay, that's your assignment now to check to see how many games I've played. But it's good because yeah, I'm gonna be 40 this year, and I celebrate that. I cherish it because I want to show players that you can go far. You can, push when you take care of yourself, take care of your body, and you do the right things. Hopefully, with a little bit of luck, you can, go as far as you want to go. When I was roommates back in Columbus days in 2006, 2007 with Ezra Hendrickson. He was my roommate then, playing under Ziggy Schmidt. Ezra was just finishing his career. And I remember he was around 33, getting to 35 now. That was when I said to myself, I want to play until I'm 40 because I saw how he took care of himself. And I said, no disrespect to Ezra, I said, I'm going to do a little bit more than you. I'm going to go till I'm 40. So that was the push. So to be here, to be around these guys is an example when I'm training hard and working hard. It's also showing them because most of them are like, man, I wish I can do it until your age. So it's good that I can bring that positive, outlook to them in around the locker room.
That's amazing. And you know what? I think they can, because we always had that in our head. If you stop playing at 33, 34, 35, that's it. But if you take good care of your body, you stay young at heart, you do all those things, it can do it. And I
enjoy it, man. Enjoy it.
I get the feeling you may go beyond 40.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. Like I said, again, this is I don't want to, it's cliche, people say breath of, fresh air, but to be here, to be in this club, like I've been around the league, I've been around so many different places, but this is a challenge to me because I say again, it's a club, with not so, much history, but, still making this first, 10 years of history. And you want to be part of that. You want to be a part of something great, because when you are, then, many years from now, you can be one of those people that they can talk about. So again, me being under these roofs here, it's really about wanting to be part of not just, the kid that went to Lutzinger High School or Cal State Dominguez, but, being part of this team and being part of this history here. It's something that's really like, it pushes me.
When you arrived, I think most people said, oh, he's going to score some goals. And we'll get to that in a moment. But there's more to it, right? And we have seen it. It is being a presence at training, helping the younger generation to show them that path. I mean, I can't imagine what they would think. Here, I'm 18, 19. And if I do it the right way, I could be doing this for as long as Kai has. What are those other things that you bring to the table that you can? And some of the things that maybe the club says, we know, okay, maybe you're not going to score goals, but you're going to help us here, you're going to help us here, you're going to help us here, in addition to scoring goals.
No, definitely. To me, what I've done most places, I mean, it's weird to talk about, other players that I've played with, but the younger guys, the Alfonso Davies or, Georgi Mihailovic, and being around most of those guys, Dom Dwyer, CJ Sapong days, I've always wanted to pass on the information that I got from Dwayne De Losario, Brian Ching, Ezra Hendrickson, like all these guys, what they did for me. And that's what, I love being the bigger brother, next to these guys. But it's not just telling you stuff, but when you actually see me next to you and I'm trying to beat you on a sprint, and I'm bringing the fun in between the hard work that we're doing, because to me, that's what it is. We can take it so serious, but how can it be serious fun? So yes, I'm going to deliver when I'm on the field, because that's what I want to do. I want to score goals, but to be able to help the guys, it's hard when some dressing room, locker rooms just want to be young and not have an experience, but having our experience, we know how to lose and we know how to win games, how to kind of maintain those things. I'm never going to change when it comes to different places. I just hope that I'm able to, bring in a little bit more of what I've gotten in my, 17, 19-year career in different places onto this team. But again, I'm always ready. I'm always ready to play. I'm always ready to get on the field. Definitely when you score goals, it does help the guys and help them believe into what you can do. But at the same time, I come in now to, to kill games. I come in to defend corner kicks, and I enjoy that.
And this is something else that's crazy, because let's just take a poll here. If you had to do a 50-yard dash on LAFC, where would you finish? Would you be in the top 5? I know you would be in the top 10.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Because I've seen it. I mean, you can get from point A to point B like a man much younger than you.
I'm gonna say my first week here, I beat Kike on a short sprint, and I'm gonna celebrate that one, and I'm just gonna take that one all the way to the
Impressive.
bank. We're not gonna do it again. We're not gonna do it again. I see Denis. Obviously, he's so explosive. But I challenge some of the young boys. I look at them. I was talking to Eric the other day. I was like, "Hey, do you think you can beat me on the 50?" And I was talking to Mueller, same thing. I was like, "Hey, you think you can beat me on half field?" And they're like, and right when they start debating themselves, I said, there you go. I've won already. The fact that you're thinking it. So I'm going to put myself top 5 for sure. Three for probably.
Wow. But that's
its age.
You also nailed it because you said, look, I can do it once, but when we get a little older and these kids get 2-3 cracks at it, they'll
No, you take advantage of it. The one time you get it and don't come back to it. It's like, that's just it.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, I spoke to the PR and Seth, the PR department. We bring up a story about how you used to be. You were at Cal State Dominguez Hills trying to get a hold of becoming a pro, and you were working security, right, or something along those lines.
Operations, yeah. I worked operations crew at Cal State at the Home Depot Center when it was Home Depot. Center. Yeah. And you did that just to be around the sport, right? You just wanted because you were in university. You didn't know about professional career, let alone a 20 years career. You were just, what was young Kai like looking to get a hold of something like that? Yes, it was obviously coming again from Lunziger High School back in Lawndale and choosing a college. I remember sending my resumes to all these schools, Northridge and LMU and all the different places. And I met Joe Flanagan at Cal State Dominguez Hills. And then he says, you want to come in and come take a look at the school? And I did. When I got to the campus and I realized, Los Angeles Galaxy was building their stadium there. And it just helped me choose the school. I said, definitely, I'm going to go here because my dream is to play pro. And so while being at the school, again, finding a way to get close to a professional team, then I decided to get a job at the stadium. And so working at the stadium, working operations is, putting the goals up, breaking down, setting up the conference rooms, putting the barricades, for people to get tickets and all this thing. So I used to do that, but all the other different events too, like the X Games, the tennis, and all those. And it paid really well. The minimum wage there was like $12, $13 an hour for a college kid. But during the events, during the games, I get to use those times to watch games. And I remember one of the names I will also mention here is whenever I see Kobe Jones around. So he knew me now as this player that played over at Cal State Dominguez, but he also works here. And he, hey, big man, what's up? So that would just fuel me like, I want this. I want it more. But yeah, he kept me close to those guys that were there. That's why I feel so good. Again, I'm going to say, but to come on this side now and come to this new history of soccer in California, in Los Angeles, like it's special.
Kai, you have an obligation, so I want to pick this up at another time because this has been amazing. I know we've just scratched the surface, but I wanted to get one last question about your work in Sierra Leone, just to let people know what you're doing, because it is truly amazing. If you don't know about Sierra Leone and the plight that country has gone through with the kids and everything, and you hear somebody who goes in there and shows an example for what is possible. Tell us about why that's so special for you and why you're going to continue to put Sierra Leone first in your life.
No, it's amazing. And a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, there was the Kentucky Derby and the Sierra Leone, the horse was there. And I was cheering so loud and people were like, yeah, we're supporting Sierra Leone. I was like, this is the positive light that we want to keep, bringing to Sierra Leone, because when people hear about it, they just think about, the tragic stuff that happened in Sierra Leone. But I was lucky to come to the U.S. at 16 and going to school here in L.A., growing up and playing a 19-year professional career. So, and through my heart-shaped hand celebration, I created a foundation that I use my heart and my hands, to give back to Sierra Leone. So we want to use sports again. It's what gave me the opportunity to use sports as a tool to education, because most kids in third world countries or Africa that I know are leaving and taking the pathway to becoming a professional soccer player without having the education. But the more I'm able to do that, hopefully we're able to save some kids. And that's the dream. We want to build our own school, our own campus, where we can, again, encourage and give kids scholarships to come in there and learn, but, using soccer as the tool.
They don't make them like you, Kai. I'm just glad you're out there. I'm glad there's a one that is there, and we appreciate you. We're going to have you back when you break that record. We're going to talk all about it, and we'll have a sequel to our wonderful conversation. Always great to chat with you, and look forward to doing it again. Best of luck this season. We'll circle back soon.
Thank you very much. I'll see you around.
Kai, the one and only Kei Kamara, joining us here on Inside LAFC Podcast. We appreciate you joining us, as always, every week. A reminder to rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend so you don't miss all this good stuff. We'll be back again next week. Till then, have a good one.